Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Juan Lopez. I'm with Media Arts San Diego. Today, we're presenting Stories of Resilience. Stories of Resilience is a partnership with UC San Diego Center for Community Health and the San Diego County Childhood Obesity Initiative. It's a video series focusing on the City Heights community and what different community members are doing to provide healthy food alternatives to its residents. Um, this interview is focused on A La Vuelta Farms, on an urban farm in City Heights that after the pandemic began, they started offering a pay what you can system for the community to maintain access to fresh and healthy foods. But apart from that, they also began Foodshed, which is a small farm distro. It's a new farmer-owned cooperative that is dedicated to growing a just food system here in San Diego. Before we get to talk to Rica and Adriana, who are the owners of A La Vuelta, we're gonna watch the video. For those who haven't seen it, you're gonna get a chance to watch it. Again, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, um, you're gonna have the chance to you can comment, make a comment or ask any questions, and we'll pop them up and we'll have see if Rika and Adriana can answer them for us. All right. Well, let me get the video started, and we'll be back in a couple minutes.
A La Vuelta Farm is a partnership, and it's myself and my neighbor and old friend Rica, and we grow microgreens and shoots here in City Heights with the goal of making fresh food more accessible and affordable in our area. One of the reasons why we focused on City Heights is because in our farm, as A La Vuelta Farm, we always envisioned this as being a business that's a kind of force against gentrification. And so we want to grow these delicious, beautiful greens, but not just go and sell them in La Jolla. There's a lot of immigrants here in this neighborhood and everywhere, Mexican immigrants, Latino immigrants, but also from all over the world that have these ways of eating and existing and living that's more in connection to the land and the seasons. But when they immigrate, there's this idea that you have to, assimilate or adapt to the way of life here. There's this quick loss that happens from like our traditions. And so people think that's just not possible to have that fresh, the fresh greens that you used to harvest, the chiles, whatever. Some of our neighbors come by and they see what we're growing in the front yard. They're like, "What? You have chile de bean? This is amazing. I didn't think you can even grow these. I thought they had to be wild harvested." And so there's a reawakening, I think, that happens when people start seeing like small urban farms that are growing these traditional foods. And there's also just that it feels like, oh wow, this is worth doing, and it can be done. It's been really cool to see our customer base growing here in City Heights at the Fairmount Urban Garden pop-up on Saturdays, because we do have a lot of Latino women and families and kids that are excited to be picking up their pepinos, and it's pretty cool because some of them share their photos with us of the kids super excited eating what was in the box this week, the strawberries, the watermelon. It's been really fulfilling for me to find myself in this role of being able to share healthy food and the recipes and the access with other people in my family, first and foremost, and in my neighborhood. Having the core of our business be committed to equity was there from the start, and then with COVID, we see that there's so many people that are unemployed right now or struggling, and having the superpower to grow fresh food and be able to share it with our communities is something that we're really excited to share. So pay what you can is just feel like that's the only just way to be functioning right now in these times, because it's not all about profits. It's about sustainability and how do we keep not just ourselves in a safe place that feels stable, but our communities.
Thank you. We bringing in Rica and Adriana. Hi, Rica and Adriana. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Well, I think in the video we touched a little bit on a bunch of different subjects. So maybe for here we can expand on those. Again, to anyone watching in the audience, you're more than welcome to send any questions, any comments you might have, and then they'll show up here at the bottom, kind of like Digital Gym Cinema just said, awesome video. Thank you, DGC. But apart from that, why don't we start with your beginnings, the beginnings of A La Vuelta Farm, and how this project came together for you.
What I remember, what is it like? It was a couple of years ago. I was working at health institute, and I was growing microgreens and wheatgrass. And at that time, Adriana and I were helping each other with childcare, and she proposed to me if we could start growing microgreens and shoots. And I said, like, all right, let's do it. And that's how it was quick. We didn't like plan like for a long time. It was just like we just started doing research and buying seed, and then just growing microgreens and shoots on our backyards.
Basically, I became Rica's apprentice in terms of how to grow. I think prior to that, I've always like loved the idea of gardens and knowing how to do agriculture, but I felt like I was one of those people that even like every house plant I have, I ended up torturing, and it would dry up and stuff. So it was really cool to entertain the idea that, hey, look, like we're already apoyo mutuo. We're like supporting each other in this, like as parents and as neighbors and as friends involved in food justice. I was a teacher in City Heights for a long time, and we would do a lot of events. I had a health and sustainability club at the high school, and we would, the kids would get involved in organizing things. And Rica always showed up with his kids, and he would help us, like, he would talk about like the things he was involved in and just like connecting, community. So it was really cool to say, okay, like here's what we care about, here's what we know, here's my skills, here's Rica's skills. Like, let's just like take that courageous step and just see if it's something that we can really make happen.
Yeah, and we were also like talking from the beginning. We were just trying to remember like how we started for this interview, and one of the things that we wanted to do was to have our children around what we do, and also to eat healthy stuff. And microgreens and shoots are easy for children. It seems like to me, I have the experience with my children that they just eat them raw like that, and they're very like high nutrients. So for us, if they eat like a bowl of microgreens and shoots, it's going to be super beneficial for them and for other children. And because we live in City Heights, and we also wanted to do some work with other families and provide like an alternative to the people here in City Heights, we feel like it was a good way. It was a good story, our kids eating this stuff that is healthy for them, and to make it accessible for the rest of the community.
Yeah, we have a couple comments here. Ethan says, congratulations on the great video and the amazing garden. Thank you for sharing your story. And Teresa Mel says, what a great project. Thank you. I think you two touched in an interesting part with that you kind of wanted, like, it was easy for your kids to eat this stuff, and it's kind of a thing where I think when you start young eating a certain type of way, you kind of keep eating like that. It's like as you grow older, right? Um, and maybe I think was the point was the reason that you saw the sustainability like projects at the schools that you worked at, was it because there was a lack of you saw a lack of like healthier food options here in City Heights?
Well, I worked, yeah, with high schoolers for almost 9 years, and from the very beginning, we were excited to start a school garden, and it was a really small school, so it was pretty awesome to have that engagement. And I was a teacher for English learners, so like the newly arrived students from Ethiopia and Mexico and
Mm-hmm.
all over the world. So it was really intense for me. One, seeing the disconnect between like where food grows, how food grows, like, what grows in the ground versus on a tree. Like a lot of students didn't even have that knowledge. And then there were those who did, who maybe at home like were a little bit more connected to the land still, but they felt like working in with your hands in the dirt was like a low, was like degrading or something.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, in those same students, there were these like little moments where like you could see their eyes light up and they would be so excited that like they were seeing something that reminded them of what their abuelita used to make for them or something like that, or what their grandmother used to prepare for them. And so it was just this like internal conflict that was so obvious in so many students. And that was just a really intense realization for me to see that they're like, that yeah, their diets were, not the best, and that's because what's cheap and accessible is usually not the fresh and healthy things.
Mm-hmm.
Not that there's not good food in City Heights that's available, but it does get outnumbered by like the fast food and the processed stuff, right? The packaged stuff, and then and even like the school lunches, even though people try to offer healthy options, I think just because it has to be like mass produced or people, there's a shift happening, but even that wasn't like the healthiest or the freshest. And so yeah, definitely I saw that it wasn't easily available, and also that there was just a lot of just crazy intense like psychological stuff happening in these like newly arrived immigrants, and even just all the kids, that like they didn't have models showing them that like this is something that is like I don't know what the word is, like valuable and
Like,
important to yourself,
mm-hmm.
respected.
Wow. No, and I think you just reminded me of something. I think we were talking at first when we were shooting the video, we were talking about how I myself, like when I used to go see my grandparents in Mexico as a kid, I remember everything was purchased for like the day of, like like your groceries, like, oh, today we're gonna eat this. Well, you gotta go to the market to buy that stuff and make it. But it wasn't purchased in bulk like we do here at supermarkets, right? Um, and I think when I was at your garden, it reminded me of that a lot because everything smells so fresh. And then I had a chance to taste it, so I bought a bag when I went to go shoot with Rica, and they tasted fresh. It tastes so fresh, so flavorful and fresh. Um, so I think what you it that aspect is good because I think since you like you mentioned we do have a lot of immigrants here in City Heights. So do you think that feels like something where people can connect with your product?
Well, like what we've been doing, like what I do all the time, like 'cause I like Mexican food and that's what I know how to cook. And I constantly send pictures to Adriana about things that I do. Like, let's say, for example, you eat tostadas or I don't know, but tostadas. Usually, people put like lettuce on top and radishes or something, with the protein and everything. But I always send her pictures with a bunch of sprouts. The same Mexican food that we eat, but just incorporating like this really nutritious microgreens. And it's not like that we want to change our culture, but it's good to modify it to put more nutrients in our bodies, especially if they're like fresh and local. And I think we deserve it, you know, and people in City Heights deserve it. Like there's a lot of, like, I assume the numbers are really high in diabetes and cancer in our communities. And this specific product that we do, it will help us, all of us, just by eating it and reducing like the risk of getting sick. And people don't have to feel like it's a strange food, you know, or a food that only, I don't know, people in other neighborhoods eat, but we can make it ours just with the same stuff that we eat. Just put it right there and eat it.
Yeah. I think it's been interesting too, you know, with our kids, right? I was talking about the high schoolers I've worked with, but, you know, when we started, we started actually almost 3 years ago when we started experimenting and entertaining the idea. And, you know, we both had newborns, pretty much, infants. And I didn't know that and I also had an older, he was like 2 at that point, or 3 almost years old. I didn't start growing microgreens because I knew for sure that Matiak, my son, would eat them. But it was really interesting as we started, I hoped that, right? But I didn't know for sure. And it was really interesting as we started doing it that, like, just having it there were days where he didn't want anything to do with it. And there were days where he would just, like, as I'm harvesting, he would, like, grab them by the handful and just stuff his mouth with some bitter greens. Like, fenugreek is very bitter. And then initially we experimented with, like, all kinds of seeds, like, you know, and so it was really cool to see that it is true. Like, if you just keep offering, because I think a lot of times as parents we are like, oh, no le gusta eso, he doesn't like this, so then you don't put it on their plate anymore. But like, no, I keep, like you said, add to every dish that we make, like, add the microgreens. Like, we're in a rush and feeling lazy, like ramen soup with a bunch of microgreens on top and some nuts or something, you know. And so I think just like figuring out a way to, like, wrap it into our comfort foods, whatever those are, that's really been the exciting thing for me, is like, or if it's not like wrapped in there, which, like, I totally have made, like, broccoli sprouts in my brownies, and like in the tamales, I now, like, I have my dad's, like, tamal recipe, which is like nothing compares to it. It's so amazing, but it's just the corn, you know, with the sugar and the butter and the salt, and they're amazing, and chile. But when I make tamales, I get a handful of whatever it is, whether it's verdolagas, and I chop it up really tiny, or in the masa, like, I put a good amount of greens. Like, it's crazy how much greens you can, like, put in masa, and it doesn't even really, like, it's not noticeable, and it's like all of a sudden you're like, you can feel good about eating that tamal, you know. Like, oh, the greens are in there, you know, like, and it makes it moist. Like, it's been a really cool, like, journey of, like, figuring out, like, how do we, like, honor our culture and, like, just slight little, like, tweaks to kind of get the healthy stuff back in there. Because I think originally it was there, and it's been this, like, this movement since, like, the 50s, right, of, like, away from the fresh everyday shopping to, like, the processed stuff. And now it's like, hey, it's time to go back.
Our bodies are feeling it. I have a couple questions. The first one is from Teresa. She asked, what are microgreens?
Well, so it's a fancy word for basically, like, a seed that you grow to about a few inches tall. It could be from, like, you know, 2 to 3 to, like, 6 inches or something, and then you harvest it at that point. So it could be broccoli that you grow in a tray that's, like, a lot of seeds together, and then it grows and you harvest it at that size. So it's a green and it's micro, it's little. Yeah. But I think sometimes people use the word sprouts, although then there's, like,
Yeah.
People get technical.
The microgreens, usually they're on soil, and we grow them on trays and put soil and then sprout them like that, and and then yeah, it's the same plant. Like for example, broccoli, but we don't let it grow all the way, and we harvest it. And like for example, just broccoli, we say that is 40% more potent than the actual broccoli, than the fruit. So it's very dense in nutrients, and seems that kids like it more. At least that's my experience with my children.
Yeah, it's definitely like more nutrient dense. So like if you take like compare an ounce of microgreens with an ounce of like a mature piece of broccoli, like there's more nutrients in that ounce in the younger one, and it makes sense, right? Because like the seed has so much, and then as it grows, I don't know, it kind of gets dispersed a little bit. But also, they say there's been some studies that show that it's also more easily digestible. So you can absorb the nutrients better if you eat the microgreens or like at a younger stage, I guess. Yeah.
Awesome. Teresa had another question, which I know the answer to, but I'm gonna let you answer it. How did you guys get to use the land?
So we're lucky enough to own our own home. We started as a group of friends, and we bought the house together, and then we sort of like transitioned out of that. So and then Rica, we were already friends, and we got lucky that they got a house down the street from us. So it's our backyard, and it's because it's microgreens and we grow them in trays, we can kind of like stack them. So we have shelves, so we can grow quite a bit in a very small space.
We don't need a lot of land, and that's why one of the reasons why we wanted to do it like this in our backyard. And plus, our partners are really amazing to support us, because like my wife, she's a farmer, and Adriana's husband also works. He grows apples.
Well, and I like how Rica tells the story that I went and proposed to him, let's do this, but like really what happened is that we have our good friends who have a farm out in Palma Valley, Solidarity Farm, and they've been full friends of ours in the food justice movement for a long time. And so they had been pushing both of us. They're like, Rica, come on, you're doing this, and it's a good job, but you could be doing it yourself and getting a more just pay, right? And then you telling me too, like, come on, you guys should do this. So we were pushed by them, and which is really cool to have friends that encourage you to do like good things. And as doing the microgreens thing is also a really cool way to support these other farms who do have more land, because as we're feeling the effects of the climate crisis, farmers, even if they're doing their best practices, are like having really big challenges with these heat waves and the cold spells and the sudden shifts where it's like freezing one day and 90 degrees the next, So having this distribution network where we're growing these things on the short cycle, because microgreens grow in like a week or two, helps them fill in the gaps when like their lettuce has all frozen over and they can't harvest it for a little while. So it's a really cool way to support each other. Like I love the microgreens and they're so nutritious. That doesn't mean I'm going to replace all my diet and not eat like carrots, And so it's pretty cool to be able to like complement each other in that way.
Yeah. So pivoting over to that, I know that like A La Vuelta Farm is based in City Heights, and you guys have like a base home here where you kind of able to set up and sell your product on the weekends. But why don't you talk to us a little more about Foodshed, which is kind of encompasses all of San Diego, correct?
I can do well, for me, like Foodshed is like first of all, we started as all friends. We're all friends. We've been friends for a long time. and we decided to do this. One of our friends, Ellie, which is, you know, has so many ideas, and she wanted to do to start Foodshed and invited us, and we jump in and quit our jobs and just start working. The first day that we started, or that I started, it was the day where everything started getting shut down. It's like around March 14, around there. That's when I started, and everything was closed, and it happened like fast that all of a sudden people that you know, they always have questions about like local farms and organic or farms that have organic practices, how the product look like, you know, because sometimes it doesn't look the same as shiny as the ones that are super sprayed with pesticides that are in the stores. But all of a sudden, people wanted to buy from the farms, and plus the farmers markets were closed, and people started purchasing more from us. Um, so it was a very exciting time, and even right now. And for me, like I've been almost since the beginning, like at the end of April, we're starting to do a pop-up stand uh, in City Heights as a response because of what happened with COVID, and also because the City Heights Farmers Market was closed. So we put a pop-up stand, we set up, and people start coming in, and we just, me, like personally, because I've been there doing this since the end of April, it was a very unique and amazing experience because you get to see, unfortunately, people that are struggling, that don't have money, and they want to purchase your product, but they don't have any money, and the chance that we have to give it away for free. And also is because there's a lot of people that go to the farm stand that they give more money to support others, you know, and that's sign of solidarity that I've been experienced. It's so amazing. So anyways, like I just wanted to say that about Foodshed because it's been a great experience for me.
I mean, it's pretty exciting that we're able, you know, as like Rika mentioned, as friends and kind of long time social justice, I don't know, part of that movement. Foodshed is really like this amazing intersection of all of these things that we've kind of come to realize are important areas to work on in our society, in our community, in our society. So like, first of all, part of the dream is that it's a Foodshed small farm distribution and resource center, right? So basically like sort of like a small farm incubator, right? Like, you know, our friends at Solidarity Farm have been doing this for a few years, and then they're figuring it out, and they're like, how can we like join together and help these other super small farms that are really just starting? How can we help them have a chance at existing, really? Because it's tough, like the red tape that you have to go through to just start a business. So like you can maybe have a plot at the community garden or something like that, but to take that next step to bring in a little bit more income, so it's like getting closer to being an important like revenue stream for like survival, it's a big jump. And so we're like figuring out, all right, so as Foodshed, what can we do to like share our knowledge with these other beginning farmers, to provide mentorship, and to share resources. So like one of the things we are starting is a tool library, I guess, but and so having like the central place where like all the different participating farms can come and like borrow an expensive piece of equipment to go do what they need to on their farm, or just the information, right? Like skill sharing. And so that's like on the farmer end, like, okay, so Foodshed is going to help these small farms even start off and exist. And then to cut out the middleman, because like, if you look at like the price, typical price that like is paid to a farmer for a produce and then what it sells for in a retail store, I think it's like average is like, how many cents on the dollar? I should know this exactly, but it's very little.
Yeah.
And so by having this cooperative do the distribution, we are able to pay the farmer more. And then at the end of the day, at the end of the year or whatever, any profit that the distribution made is going back to the farmers because the farmers are owners of the distribution, like cooperative. And so that just already like makes it way more possible. Like I think like I mentioned, I don't know, before to you, Juan, that it feels like this really like audacious like stance to be like, yeah, you know, we can make a living growing food in this day and age with like industrial farming like being the dominant way. And like I just like see how in however many generations like my grandparents did live off the land, you know. In Sinaloa they had a mango orchard and you know they grew their corn and it was like sustainable, like self-sustainable. And then that was like quickly lost because of a lot of big, you know, economic pressures, you know. And so then now we have this system where like where my dad growing up, he worked in agriculture, but he worked in this like huge industrialized like farm. So he was, you know, managing the machinery and making sure like chemicals were sprayed and all those things, you know, and that made him sick. It made a lot of people sick. Like my neighbor growing up, died in the first house we lived in. The crop dusters would fly over our house and we would get sprayed like if we were out on a walk. And she died of cancer like young, you know, of liver cancer. And then my other neighbor, the next house we lived in, now we weren't right in the fields, but we were still across the street from them. And we would shower with the water from the canals, which, like, you know, they do some things to try to prevent runoff, but, like, come on now, you know, when you see the amount of chemicals they use, it's like, so that's what we would shower with and stuff. And so she died of cancer, also super young, like, this is, like, in her 50s, you know. And my mom's had cancer, you know, like, it's not a joke. Like, it's, you know, there's so many carcinogens in our society that people say, oh, you know, whatever, like, it's not from the water, it's not from this, or it's not from that, but it's from something, you know. And so to be able to, like, take the stance of saying, like, we want to grow our own food, and we want to be able to live off of it, and we want to do it in a way that's regenerative, that's going to heal the land instead of make it sicker. Like, that's just, like, it feels, like, incredibly, like, empowering to stand here and say, like, yeah, we're going to do that, you know, and we need everybody's support, right? You know, people have to, like, decide to then buy from the farmers doing this, which is, like, a huge, I think, shift. But it's really exciting that there's people interested in doing that.
Yeah, and I think Rick already touched on it too, but I remember when I was there at on that Saturday, getting some B-roll of them. Like you mentioned, there was a lot of people paying more than what the bag was sold for, and I think it helps a lot with that that food equity option, right? Like, because there was also people who couldn't afford it that were there, but they were being kind of balanced out with everyone else. How do you think that has helped grow, or like kind of, actually no, not how it has helped, but like how have you seen an increase of people coming in apart from once you started that program, basically?
Yeah, especially because we changed locations like a couple blocks. It was amazing just to see that in the beginning we were north of, almost around the corner of University and Fairmont, and then we moved to the community garden in City Heights that is on Whiteman and 43rd. In this other type of not other, like other community neighbors that walk more. That didn't. One of them, it was crazy that one of them told me the first day when we moved that she said, I never go past university, and it's in the same neighborhood. It was crazy, like, but she started going there, and it's like it became, sometimes people just go there, buy the food, and just to have a conversation with us, and that's pretty amazing because it's another, like, you know, thing. Like, it's kind of like a community center.
Yeah.
Just to go hang out.
You're building community in that small space, right?
That's because Rica's fun to talk with.
But it gives you a chance to have a conversation with people and say, like, for example, people get really excited that no matter what, like every Saturday, the greens that we have are from City Heights. No matter what, we buy them from the New Roots Farmers, which is on 54 and 50, around 54 in University. There's a New Roots Farm, and we buy it from them. So, and it gives you a chance to tell them, hey, look, when you purchasing this produce from us, the money's staying here in the neighborhood to the local, with the local farmers. And I mean, and no matter what, all the farmers that we work with are local from San Diego. Just some of them from Escondido, and some other ones from Imperial Beach, but everybody's local. Oh, and then us, we're here in City Heights too. And yeah, so that's, it gives us a chance to have those conversations and for people to just have a chance to I don't know, just talk about them and then see the value of helping each other and buying the stuff from local people.
Definitely. And would you be able to? I know. You mentioned where it's at again, but would you be? I guess I think Teresa message is so awesome. Please give the location of the farm stand. Your ethos is so inspiring.
So it's 43rd and Whiteman, and we can, I mean, I don't know if there's a better way to share it, but it's the community, City Heights Community Garden on the corner of 43rd and Whiteman. Yeah. Saturdays from 9 to 12. Rain or shine. It was rainy the other day. Yeah.
And you said it was Saturdays from
9 to 12.
9 to 12. I don't know right now if we're gonna continue for a long time there because I know the farmers market just opened, and we want people in the community and also from San Diego to support the farmers market at City Heights, because supporting them is going to be supporting the local farmers too. But we are going to be there at least for the next 3 weeks, and maybe for longer, or maybe we find another spot in City Heights to continue doing this.
We're going to meet next week to kind of discuss all these ideas. So any feedback we get from any of you would be very, very valuable.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Do you guys have any final comments or anything you'd like to share with the crowd?
Yeah, just if anybody wants to stay connected, I think the best way to do that is to go to the Foodshed website, foodshedsandiego.org or Foodshed. Yeah. You can find it. There's a link on the Facebook page, and then you can we can keep people up to date about where we're at and what we're offering as we grow, as we build this network.
Yeah. Yeah, if you guys want to support us, like the best way is also like that. Right now, we're moving our product to Foodshed, And if you sign up for the CSA, we do see a CSA deliveries on Tuesdays. And if you guys can support us, uh, support Foodshed is a good way to support us and support the other local farms. And to me, like it would be nice, like people to see the value in supporting everything local, local coffee places, local uh, growers, and because it's gonna impact like our economies and local economies. So,
Definitely. Well, thank you so much. And I have one last thing. Anybody, you can also follow them at alavueltafarm.com. I know that you posted recipes on here from the stuff that you from the same produce you sell, and I've actually bookmarked. I haven't made anything, but I bookmarked a bunch, so I'm excited to try a bunch of them. So if for anything, I would say go to their website too. Well, thank you so much again for joining us today. We hope to see you at your stand soon. Also,
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Juan.
thank you. Goodbye. Thank you to everybody that joined us tonight. Again, to if you wanna learn more about Rica and Adriana, you can follow them on the Foodshed Facebook page or on their website. Um, like they mentioned, keep continue to support small businesses here in San Diego, our local farmers, and you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to write them down in the comment section, and we'll I can forward them to them, or we can get them to you. Again, thank you so much, and I hope everyone has a great night.